6 Indian motorcycles are officially never coming back. Not redesigned, not paused, not delayed. Gone. The confirmation dropped moments ago, and it changes more than a product list. It reshapes ownership, resale, and the future of entire platforms. Headlines won't tell you which riders this affects most, or why these specific machines were chosen, and they won't tell you what happens after production stops. But by the time we reach number 1, the strategy behind this decision becomes clear, and it's not comforting for anyone paying attention. Number 6. Indian Scout Rogue. It entered the showroom wearing sharp edges and dark intent, aimed at riders who wanted attitude without bulk. This machine was built to signal movement, a visual break from chrome nostalgia, and a quiet admission that the entry platform needed younger blood. The design spoke first, long before the engine ever turned. Low bars, chopped fenders, and a stripped profile made it look faster than it needed to be. For many seasoned riders, that approach felt unfamiliar, even calculated, like a factory trying to borrow rebellion instead of earning it. Underneath the styling, the foundation stayed familiar. The platform had already proven reliable, smooth, and approachable. It started easily, ran clean, and behaved predictably in traffic and on back roads. That dependability earned respect, especially from riders who value machines that do their job without drama. But dependability alone does not guarantee longevity. As regulations tighten and costs rise, platforms must justify their future beyond looks. This one struggled to do that. The riding experience was honest, but limited. Power delivery came on quick and smooth, more eager than aggressive. Around town, it felt light and cooperative. On longer stretches, the lack of wind protection and limited suspension travel became apparent. It reminded riders that this was not built for crossing states or eating miles. It was built for short rides, clean lines, and visual presence. That narrow focus left it exposed when priorities shifted. Dealers noticed the hesitation early. Riders admired it, sat on it, and asked questions, but many walked back toward larger cruisers or full touring rigs. Older buyers respected the engineering but questioned the long-term comfort. Younger buyers liked the look, but often chased lighter imports or cheaper options. That middle ground is dangerous. When a motorcycle appeals visually, but lacks a clear long-term rider identity, it becomes vulnerable when production decisions tighten. There is also the issue of timing. This model arrived late in the platform's life cycle, when emission standards and manufacturing costs were already pressing hard. Updating styling is far cheaper than re-engineering an engine family. The company chose the affordable path, knowing it might only buy a few seasons. Riders who have watched the industry for decades recognized that pattern immediately. Short runs often signal quiet exits, not long futures. Ownership realities matter here. Short production windows can complicate parts availability years down the road, while shared components soften that risk. Trim-specific items and unique bodywork are often the first to disappear. Resale value follows perception, and perception follows confidence. Once riders sense uncertainty, the market reacts quickly. That does not make the machine bad, it makes it temporary. Short production runs like this leave experienced owners cautious about long-term parts, trim availability, and resale confidence. Riders who have watched platforms disappear before recognize the signs early, even when marketing remains optimistic, and dealers stay polite quietly nearby. The Scout Rogue delivers approximately 94 horsepower from an 1133 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V-twin engine with roughly 65 pound-feet of torque, using a single disc front braking system with anti-lock braking system. A wet weight of about 502 pounds, a seat height of 25.6 inches, and a starting price of $12,999. This quiet exit sets the tone for everything that follows, because once styling fixes fail to save a platform, deeper structural problems surface, forcing manufacturers to choose between costly reinvention and letting familiar machines slowly fade from showroom floors forever. Number 5. Indian Springfield Dark Horse. It was built for riders who valued tradition without surrendering presence on the highway. The silhouette carried weight, authority, and the quiet confidence of long-distance intent. This motorcycle never chased trends or chased youth, and that restraint was the point. It spoke to riders who measured miles in fuel stops and judged machines by how they aged. The riding position was upright, relaxed, and familiar, designed for days that stretch past sunset. Wind protection mattered, saddle comfort mattered, and balance at low speeds mattered most. This was a machine that respected the reality of aging joints and seasoned expectations. On the road, it felt planted and deliberate, favoring stability over flash. Long wheelbase geometry kept it calm through crosswinds and steady during sweeping highway curves. Throttle response was predictable, delivering torque without drama or surprise. That predictability is what earned trust among riders who travel far from home. It was never meant to be aggressive or edgy, and it never pretended otherwise. Yet even honest machines face hard math when product lines grow crowded. Internal overlap quietly became the enemy, not rider dissatisfaction. As touring platforms multiplied, decisions shifted from feel to efficiency. When margins tighten, machines that sit between categories are the first questioned. This model occupied that middle ground, solid but vulnerable. Riders who favored it understood its value, but understanding does not always protect production. There is also the reality of regulation, where weight, noise, and emissions carry increasing cost. Large air-cooled touring engines face scrutiny that grows stricter each cycle. Updating compliance without compromising character becomes expensive fast. That expense forces decisions that riders feel long before press releases appear. Dealers notice shifts in allocation, trim focus, and marketing language. When a motorcycle stops being discussed internally, its fate is already forming. Owners sense it through smaller cues, fewer updates, quieter promotion. None of this erases what the machine delivered during its run. It carried riders across states with dignity, comfort, and a sense of purpose. For many, it represented the last balance between tradition and usability. That balance is difficult to preserve when strategies change. Pride does not disappear overnight, but it does fade when continuity breaks. Riders who logged real miles remember machines that stayed the same long enough to earn loyalty. Balanced touring machines often vanish not from failure, but from overlap. When lineups tighten, riders lose honest comfort bikes that favored stability, wind protection, and miles over screens, updates, and marketing noise that rarely improves real-world riding experience today. The Springfield Dark Horse delivers approximately 74 horsepower from an 1,890 cubic centimeter air-cooled V-twin engine with 119 pound-feet of torque, a wet weight of approximately 845 pounds, a seat height of 26 inches, and a starting price of $23,999. Losing a balance tour rarely makes headlines, yet it changes riding culture quietly because when practical comfort disappears, riders are pushed toward extremes, either heavier technology-laden flagships or lighter machines that abandon long-distance purpose entirely for seasoned riders. If this breakdown resonates, show support by liking this video and subscribing for deeper rider-first analysis. Share your perspective below, because real insight comes from riders who've lived it, not headlines. And this conversation matters as these machines quietly disappear. Number 4. Indian FTR Rally. It arrived as a challenge rather than a compromise, built to remind riders that American manufacturers could still take risks. This machine was never meant to blend into a lineup of cruisers or touring rigs. It stood taller, rode firmer, and carried a posture that felt almost defiant. For riders used to low seats and long wheelbases, the stance alone made a statement. This was not about chrome or nostalgia. It was about movement, feedback, and control on imperfect roads. The rally felt different the moment you climbed aboard. The seat sat higher, the bars came to hand naturally, and the suspension travel was obvious before the wheels even turned. It encouraged an active riding style, one that rewarded attention and punished laziness. On broken pavement and gravel shoulders, it stayed composed, tracking straight where heavier machines wandered. That capability earned respect quickly, especially among riders who remembered when motorcycles were expected to handle more than smooth highways. Yet difference can be a liability. The riding position that felt natural to some felt foreign to others. Long-distance comfort was not its priority, and it never pretended to be an interstate mile eater. Wind protection was minimal, luggage options were limited, and the overall experience demanded engagement. For seasoned riders accustomed to relaxed touring, that trade-off required adjustment. Appreciation grew with familiarity, but it never became universal. The larger issue was purpose. This model existed outside the traditional expectations of the brand's core audience. While it proved that engineering talent was still alive, it struggled to fit neatly into dealer floors dominated by cruisers and baggers. Sales were respectable but narrow. Compliance costs, low volume, and specialized components made long-term sustainability difficult. When decisions come down to focus, outliers are often first reconsidered. Owners who embraced it understood what they had. They valued feedback through the bars, suspension that worked, and brakes that inspired confidence. They accepted the taller seat and firmer ride as part of the experience. For them, it represented a rare moment when an American brand built something purely for the ride. That kind of machine builds loyalty, but loyalty does not always protect a model when strategies shift. Performance-focused experiments excite riders, but struggle when they stand outside core buying habits, without touring comfort or volume sales. These machines face short lifespans, even when engineering succeeds. Handling impresses, and riders praise their honesty on imperfect roads everywhere. The FTR Rally delivers approximately 120 horsepower at the crank and about 105 horsepower at the wheel from a 1,203 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V-twin engine with 87 pound-feet of torque. A wet weight of approximately 530 pounds, a seat height of 34 inches, and a starting price of $13,999. When experimentation proves unsustainable, it signals retreat, not failure, showing how risk shrinks under pressure, and how riders who value handling and engagement are left with fewer choices that challenge skill rather than simply manage compliance and regulatory expectations alone. Number 3. Indian Chief Bobber. It speaks in a low voice that only seasoned riders recognize, the kind built on steel, stance, and restraint. Nothing about its presence asks for attention, yet it draws it anyway. The appeal comes from what is missing rather than what is added. No excess bodywork, no unnecessary trim, no layers of distraction. This motorcycle exists to remind riders what a stripped American V-twin is supposed to feel like: heavy, deliberate, and honest. For many riders who grew up wrenching in garages and learning engines by ear, that simplicity feels familiar. The riding experience reflects that intent immediately. The seating position is low and grounded, putting the rider deep into the machine rather than perched above it. Controls fall naturally to hand and foot without forcing posture changes. Rolling onto the throttle delivers torque in a smooth, predictable wave. It does not rush, and it does not beg. It simply pulls the way big twins always have when tuned for real roads. That predictability builds confidence, especially for riders who value control over theatrics. Where the bobber earns respect is also where it begins to struggle. Modern regulations do not favor minimalism. Every compliance requirement adds cost, weight, and complexity. On machines with fairings and electronics, those additions hide easily. On a minimalist platform, they stand out. Engineers are forced to compromise either appearance or margins. That pressure grows heavier with every production cycle. What once defined purity slowly becomes a liability on a balance sheet. Long rides expose the trade-offs further. Limited suspension travel transmits road texture directly to the rider. That feedback feels authentic on short runs, but can fatigue over distance. Wind protection is absent by design, leaving the rider fully exposed at highway speeds. Many owners accept this as part of the experience, but acceptance does not broaden the audience, as touring comfort becomes a priority for aging riders. Machines like this see their pool narrow. Dealers quietly read the signs. Inventory movement slows. Conversations shift from passion to practicality. Buyers ask about long-term support, future updates, and resale confidence. Those questions rarely get asked about models with secure futures. They arise when riders sense uncertainty. The bobber never failed its purpose. It delivered exactly what it promised. The problem is that the market around it changed faster than the philosophy behind it. Ownership carries pride, but also realism for riders who choose this machine deliberately. They know exactly what they are buying and understand why it exists. Compromises are accepted because the reward is mechanical connection, not convenience. That connection matters deeply to riders who learned throttle control before ride modes and screens. Feeling the engine work builds trust. Hearing it respond builds respect. But manufacturers must answer to forces larger than sentiment or loyalty. When production decisions tighten, machines built around emotion, character, and identity, rather than scalability and volume, face difficult odds, regardless of how deeply riders value them over time. Minimalist cruisers ask riders to accept trade-offs that markets increasingly reject. As comfort expectations rise, fewer buyers tolerate limited suspension, wind exposure, and narrow purpose, leaving simple machines vulnerable despite strong torque, visual appeal, and mechanical authenticity valued by purists. The Chief Bobber delivers approximately 74 horsepower from an 1,890 cubic centimeter air-cooled V-twin engine with 120 pound-feet of torque, a wet weight of approximately 710 pounds, a seat height of 26 inches, and a starting price of $18,999. As simplicity becomes harder to justify, the market reveals its priorities, rewarding complexity over character, while riders who prefer raw connection must decide whether to compromise their values or search elsewhere for machines that still speak plainly to seasoned riders. If you value straight talk over marketing noise, subscribe now. This channel focuses on real machines, real history, and decisions that affect riders long after announcements fade, so you stay informed before changes hit your garage and your riding future. Number 2. Indian Chieftain Limited. It was designed for riders who believed long-distance comfort should never come at the expense of presence. The stance was wide and confident, built to own the lane without shouting for attention. This motorcycle carried itself like a proper bagger, low, stretched, and deliberate, with proportions that made sense the moment you saw it rolling past. It was meant for riders who planned their days around highways, weather patterns, and fuel ranges rather than parking lot impressions. Everything about its shape suggested stability and authority earned over miles, not marketing. On the road, the experience matched that promise. The seating position felt natural, allowing knees, hips, and shoulders to settle into place without strain. Wind protection was substantial, cutting fatigue during long stretches and crosswinds. The chassis tracked straight and calm, even when fully loaded, and the front end communicated clearly through sweeping curves. It never felt rushed or nervous. Instead, it encouraged a steady rhythm that favored endurance over excitement. That balance appealed strongly to riders who valued arriving fresh as much as arriving at all. Technology was present, but restrained. Information was easy to read, controls were logical, and features served the ride instead of dominating it. Riders who grew up without screens appreciated that the machine still felt mechanical first. It did not demand constant interaction. It allowed focus on traffic, road surface, and weather. That simplicity within a modern package was its quiet strength. For many, it struck the right balance between tradition and progress. The challenge came from direction rather than design. Touring strategies across the industry have shifted toward heavier integration of electronics, connectivity, and global feature expectations. As those priorities grew, machines built around straightforward long-haul comfort began to feel out of step with internal goals. Adding complexity raises cost and weight. Removing complexity risks losing identity. In that tension, some models become difficult to justify, regardless of how well they perform their original mission. Dealers felt the shift before riders did. Allocation patterns changed. Messaging leaned toward newer interpretations of touring. Conversations about updates grew vague. None of this happens overnight, but experienced riders recognize the signs. When a platform stops evolving, its future shortens. Owners start asking practical questions about support, parts availability, and long-term value. Those questions do not reflect dissatisfaction, they reflect awareness. For riders who logged serious miles, this machine represented a dependable partner. It carried gear without complaint and handled poor pavement with composure. The weight that intimidated some became an asset at speed. Stability builds confidence, and confidence builds loyalty. That loyalty does not disappear when production ends, but it does leave a gap. Not every rider wants more screens or lighter profiles. Some want machines that stay planted and predictable above all else, especially during long days when weather, fatigue, and traffic test judgment, endurance, and trust between rider and machine mile after mile without drama or hesitation ever. Traditional baggers built for long-distance comfort face pressure as touring becomes more digital and complex. Riders who value stability, weight, and wind management watch dependable platforms disappear, replaced by technology layers that do little to improve endurance or confidence. The Chieftain Limited delivers approximately 89 horsepower from an 1,811 cubic centimeter air-cooled V-twin engine with 119 pound-feet of torque, a wet weight of approximately 878 pounds, a seat height of 26.5 inches, and a starting price of $25,999. Watching a flagship step aside forces uncomfortable questions, because when trusted long-haul platforms vanish, riders must reassess what modern touring really offers, and whether added features truly replace the confidence built through weight, balance, and familiarity earned over decades. Number 1. Indian Vintage. It represented a promise made to riders who believed heritage still mattered more than trends. The shape alone carried memory, with valanced fenders, generous chrome, and lines that felt pulled from another era. This machine never tried to look modern, and that was its strength. It stood as a reminder that motorcycles once appealed to the heart before the spreadsheet. For riders who grew up watching big twins roll past diners and gas stations, this bike felt like continuity in metal form. The riding experience reinforced that connection immediately. The seating position was relaxed and upright, placing the rider behind the bars rather than over them. Wind protection worked without drama, and the wide saddle supported hours in the seat without complaint. The pace it encouraged was unhurried, favoring smooth throttle input and steady cruising. It was not interested in sharp transitions or aggressive riding. It was built to let the road come to you mile after mile. What made this machine special was not performance, but intention. Every design choice pointed backward with purpose. Leather details, generous floorboards, and visual weight all spoke to long-distance comfort rooted in tradition. Riders who valued ritual as much as motion understood it immediately. Starting it felt ceremonial. Parking it drew conversations from strangers who recognized what it represented. That kind of response cannot be engineered quickly, and it cannot be replaced easily. The challenge came from forces larger than sentiment. Heritage styling is expensive to maintain under modern standards. Chrome adds cost. Weight complicates compliance. Classic ergonomics limit packaging options for newer systems. Each update demands compromise, and compromise slowly erodes authenticity. Manufacturers face difficult choices when the cost of staying true outweighs the volume it delivers. That calculation rarely favors nostalgia, no matter how loyal the audience. Dealers saw the writing early. Fewer updates, quieter marketing, and subtle shifts in emphasis all signaled an approaching end. Riders noticed too, even if they could not point to a single announcement. Conversations turned reflective rather than speculative. Owners began speaking about the bike in past tense, not because it failed them, but because they sensed its time was limited. That awareness carries weight among riders who have watched generations of machines come and go. The loss of this model carries meaning beyond numbers. It signals a shift away from honoring the past as a living influence. Heritage becomes something referenced rather than built. For riders who found identity in machines like this, the disappearance feels personal. It is not just about losing a motorcycle, it is about losing recognition. When heritage no longer fits the future plan, riders are asked to adapt instead. Some will, others will not. Ownership remains a point of pride for riders who chose this machine with eyes and intent. Those who ride it know exactly what they have earned through miles, maintenance, and patience. They understand its compromises and accept them without resentment or apology. The ride was never about efficiency, optimization, or chasing numbers. It was about presence, sound, balance, and mechanical feel beneath the rider. That kind of experience does not age like technology or software. Instead, it deepens with time, becoming more meaningful as fewer machines offer it. In that way, the end of production does not diminish the motorcycle. For longtime riders, this motorcycle served as a rolling reminder of why riding mattered. It rewarded patience, encouraged reflection, and made distance feel earned. Machines like this never chase relevance. They wait for riders who understand what tradition demands fully. The Vintage delivers approximately 74 horsepower from an 1890 cubic centimeter air-cooled V-twin engine with 120 pound-feet of torque, a wet weight of approximately 870 pounds, a seat height of 26.5 inches, and a starting price of $22,999. Ending with heritage leaves a lasting echo, reminding riders that once tradition is priced out, it never quietly returns. And those who lived through earlier eras must carry the memory forward without expecting factories to preserve it for future generations. This list was never about nostalgia for its own sake. It was about understanding what disappears when decisions are made quietly and for good. Machines fade, but the values behind them last longer than any production run. Riders feel when a shift is real. If you have noticed this change on the road, comment with what you think is being lost. And if this kind of clarity helps, like the video and subscribe.